Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm Oran Smith with Palmetto Promise Institute. Each legislative session, we publish a short 20-item policy priority list known as our Palmetto Freedom Agenda, and I'm glad to report that agency streamlining is one of those 20 issue areas for 25-26. Looking back over South Carolina's civic life, most historians, I think, would agree that Carroll Campbell has been among our state's most effective governors. It was Campbell, a Republican with a General Assembly that was 61% Democratic, who shepherded through a comprehensive restructuring of state government in 1993. I came along with Senator from Lawrence to Columbia from Greenville with Campbell to serve in his administration in 1987, so clearly he had great hiring practices. Well, it's hard to imagine today, but before the former upstate congressman's reform plan was enacted, South Carolina's governor was hands down America's weakest. State agencies were run by boards and commissions. There was no governor's cabinet, and executive authority was so diffused so widely and thinly that citizens often wondered who was in charge. Courtesy of our friends at the South Carolina State Library, here is a graphic from shortly before the Campbell administration. This would have been the structure of state government at the time that Senator from Lawrence and I were serving in the Campbell administration. You'll notice that there are scores of independent boards and commissions, including my favorite, the Commission on the Disposition of Dead Human Bodies. That sort of gets to the level of what was happening here. Some of the boards serving executive functions had legislators serving on them, so it was a spider's web. Now, a number of reasons for Campbell's streamlining success. There are a number of them, some of which seem almost paradoxical. He was very conservative, but he believed passionately in reform. He was a fan of conservative President Ronald Reagan, who, by the way, we celebrate his birthday today. But Campbell also decried horse and buggy government. He favored shrinking the size of government and knew well that the balance that the framers sought to build into public policy. Power should be concentrated just enough to ensure effective governance, but not enough to open the door to tyranny. Now, Campbell also benefited from what had gone before in the area of reform. There was an agency in the state, this was a good one, known as the State Reorganization Commission, that was founded, I think, in the 1950s and met till the 1980s. It was the Doge of its era, the State Reorganization Commission. There were 14 reorganization studies between 1920 and 1993. One of the most recent I have with me today, also thanks to the good offices of the folks at the State Library. Campbell's conservative but reformist legacy and his understanding of the appropriate balancing of the executive and legislative powers speaks to S.2. Following the division of DHEC into separate environmental and health agencies, the General Assembly, I believe, here is taking the next step by streamlining the health functions of 3 state agencies. S.2, which is consistent with all of those studies, in fact, some of the graphs and charts in this version really show that S.2 was something that has been recommended for a long time. It not only saves taxpayer dollars by eliminating duplication that went unaddressed in the other bites at this apple, 1993, 2014, and even 2023 with the split of DHEC, but to serve families more effectively, as the testimony we've heard today, particularly those with complex health needs who have been underserved by the confusion that comes from 3 existing unaligned agencies. But this new agency will not have new powers. The authority of the governor, as well as the chairman this morning has said, the accountability measures and the oversight measures and the confirmation procedures that are already in place, and additional safeguards that are built into the legislation in sections 16 through 20, whether that is a part of this legislation or some subsequent legislation, are designed to protect the rights of citizens. There are additional political, legal, and administrative remedies to avoid any government overreach as well. The merger of these three agencies is a reform whose time has come, a reform I feel not only Governor Campbell, a Republican, but I think the other legendary governor of that era, Governor Dick Riley, I think would be very pleased and would have embraced these reforms. Another governor, McMaster, said it well in his State of the State address last week. Our communities have a growing number of people, many of whom have untreated mental, physical, or substance abuse problems. They fall through the cracks of a system that does not coordinate, communicate, or collaborate, and we must fix this. We could not agree more, and I'm happy to take any questions you may have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank